Eleanor by the Wandering Feather. Chapter 3 Fading Light.
This one moment led to my transformation, as I was in a trance and the natives watched in awe. Their awe turned into horror. A tall native man appeared behind me and knocked me out with the end of a stick. When I awoke, I was tied up in the middle of a tent. Watching me from the entrance was a large man, the same one who knocked me out. Now that I was awake, he told me he would go and come back with a council of elders, and that I should not try to escape because I would be hunted down and killed. So I thought to myself as I waited, "Oh no, this is the end of me. If I escape this fate or get banished, I need to stop bringing so much attention to myself." So in my mind's meditation, I called out in the world between worlds, where the sacred spirits dwell, "Oh dear mother of my people, Bridget, save me from what is to come." I suddenly slipped out of my meditation, and surrounding me were 9 elders. They sat there in a circle around me. They were studying me. The oldest one then approached me. He touched my face and his dark fatherly eyes stared into mine. He let out a grumble and said,
"Sweet white child, why do you trouble us so? Did White Feather not teach you our ways? You made an oath to protect us from the settlers, but in return your actions will bring death upon us. We cannot kill you, for it will put a curse on us. But to you I will say, you are banished from our village. If you return to the settlers, they will kill you. For we will tell them what you have done. In return that they will spare us. In the morning, White Eagle will give you supplies and will lead you out of these lands."
Morning then came. I wasn't allowed to go back to my home for anything. White Eagle gave me 3 days' rations for food and a stone knife. So we began our journey. We went south to the edge of their land. The journey was quiet as I reflected on everything I had done, and we then went our separate ways. I followed the coastline, going south until I could find something suitable to call my new home. I walked for days, and something unimaginable happened as I fell into despair. A radiant light shone behind me, and when I turned to look, I had my confirmation that the spirits heard my cries. Her appearance was radiant, her hair long and golden, and her skin glowed with light as butterflies flew around her. "My sweet Eleanor, I am Anya. I've come to tell you that love awaits you not too far from here. Keep going south, and another one of us will speak to you." As soon as she had said these words, she shined brighter and disappeared. So I continued to walk a few more hours, and clouds started to get dark above me, and then lightning struck, followed by horrifying thunder. The sea began to rage. A huge bolt of lightning struck the sea, and out came another spirit.
"Eleanor, I am Lear. Do you remember me from those nights on the Mayflower? I came to tell you the spirits have been watching you, and we hear your struggles for now. They are our struggles. If you die, so does the memory of us. Please keep going south a bit longer."
I had so many questions to ask him, but he too, like Anya, left as soon as he finished speaking. So a bit further south I went, and I saw a small port. I ventured in and went to the docks. Then I heard a man yell, and I turned to look, and my heart was captured. This man was truly handsome, his hair wavy and golden, his eyes forest green. His eyes met mine, and I made an excuse to flee, since I was not proper enough to meet him. I went to a local lodge to rent for the night, and I prepared myself for him. When the sun was fading into the land, I went to the tavern nearby. Hopefully he would be there. So I sat there near the window, and a warm hand caressed my shoulder, and I looked up at him. He began to speak.
I know it's you, the one I saw today at the docks. You were beautiful, but now up close I am radiant with too many feelings to describe.
Oh, my face! I began to blush. And what is this feeling I have? I feel alive and radiant too. Am I floating? I answered him back. Yes, it is me. What is your name, Prince? Surely you are a prince or some kind of nobility. He chuckled.
Well, my sweet, my name is Hendrik. I am no lord, but a fur trader, traveling from trade post to trade post, until I find a place to set shop and call home.
My heart was racing. Are you married? Do you have children? Where are you from? He replied,
No, I am not married, but maybe you are interested. Is that why you ask? Yes, for children. We can have as many as you want. Oh, and also, I am from Amsterdam.
I hesitated and stood silent, trying to think of what to say next. Oh, my prince, you don't want to get involved with me. I have nothing to offer you but sadness and despair. I got up from my seat and I looked at him with tears in my eyes, and I ran out of the tavern into the road. Suddenly a cart came rolling down a hill at me. Hendrik saw the cart and rushed to pull me out of the way. You saved me from death, I told him. Well, since you care so much for me, I will become your burden, and you are tied to me. Needless to say now, I am no longer alone, but tied to another. So Hendrik and I began our life. In these times, it was forbidden for a man to live with a woman while out of wedlock. So after a month, we got married in private. We then went off to find a place to settle. I did not want to tell him how I fled the Plymouth settlement, but I advised him the northern settlements are bad. So it was we heard from others that there is this new town being built called Fort Amsterdam. It was but a day's ride. My husband and I gathered our supplies and headed off at night to reach the town by morning. In the morning when we arrived, I was surprised to see this settlement was larger than the one in Plymouth. My sweet husband caressed me and we rented a room until our home could be built. It was a few months after when we finally had something to call ours. My husband then set up his fur trading post. In the early morning, he went out into the woods to hunt, while I secretly practiced the craft at home. In the afternoon, he would return and I would help him to skin the day's hunt and cook the meat he brought back. I had to keep the secret of myself hidden from him. He was a good man, and the thought of him finding me out would ruin this fairy tale. One day during noon, I was mixing potions and suddenly I heard the door open. I rushed to hide everything I was doing. It was Hendrik. He had decided to come home early, as he told me what had happened to him in the morning. He was wandering in the woods looking for foxes, when suddenly he ran into an old man. The man told him he should go home, for his wife should bear him children. Hendrik then tipped the table, clearing it of everything, and he picked me up, and we made love in the kitchen, in the bedroom, and on the floor. We held nothing back. My virginity was taken in these moments. A few weeks later, I became sick with morning sickness. Life continued on with the business as normal. As my birthing pains came closer, Hendrik hired a housemaid to watch over me as he hunted. This girl he hired gave me no time to myself. My freedom to practice in secret was over. I despised this stupid maid. I made her my little slave. I made it to where she obeyed me without question. 9 months was coming since I conceived, and that day the pain was horrible. It felt as if my body was splitting in two, and my soul was splitting within me. Hendrik and the maid were there attending to my needs. After 3 hours of contractions, I gave birth to a baby girl. We called her Eanswith, after my mother. She was so beautiful. Nothing in this world is more beautiful. The maid stayed with us months after to attend to the baby and I, until I was stable enough to do everything as before. What I mean by stable enough, I mean strong enough to rid the maid, as I tried to convince my husband. We don't need her. So one day I sent the maid out to buy food. While she was gone, I made a potion to make her sick, so she would leave. When she came back, I got her to drink it as she looked thirsty. First, she lost her voice, then turned pale and fell to the ground. My husband came home. We took her to her family to care for her. Now I was finally back to life with my own freedoms, along with my sweet daughter and husband. At this point in my story, I forgot to mention our business. My husband was a fur trader. He traded with natives. As it turns out, not all natives are the same, as they are from different tribes. The competition in New Amsterdam was rough, as several families competed for trade in the fur industry. The family of our old maid was also a competitor. One night I was awoken by a whisper in my ear.
Eleanor, take your daughter, leave your husband, and go into the forest.
The dark figure that whispered in my ear soon vanished. So not thinking twice, I did as told and took my daughter. I waited there until first light, when I then began to see smoke in the distance. As no message had come to me as to why I needed to be in the forest, I took my daughter back into town. When I reached our home, oh, the horrors that raced to memory! Our home was on fire. My mind raced to think, how did this happen? And it was as I thought. I was found out. The maid's family pointed at me and screamed, oh, the horror! My heart, as it was beginning to come alive, it then was reclaimed by the darkness. I ran carrying my daughter. As I was followed by a mob, I got on a horse and dashed out of town. I kept riding until night came and we were exhausted. The moon shone its light on a cave, and there we rested.